It's Tuesday night, and Tuesday night is the Tile Happy Hour. This is where you come to talk about anything and everything tile. And if you don't know where you are, I'm glad you found us. My name is Craig Cahoon. I've been in the tile industry as a commercial installer for the last 20 plus years, and now I am the technical director for Tile Bar. I love talking about tile almost as much as this handsome fella here, and that is John Tedesco, who is with us from the big New York City. John, how are you doing this morning or this evening? Good to see you. You're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
I am muted, huh? Wow.
Well, you were muted. You are now unmuted. I can now hear you. I apologize. I was trying to do two things because John, the last 3 episodes, we've also been streaming right here down in this corner on TikTok. So while I'm doing the countdown on this screen here, I got the TikTok screen over here, and I forgot to cut your mic on. So sorry, but okay. I did remember to cut my mic on this week. So too many buttons. We need a moderator. How did any moderators out there want to work for free?
You're doing a great job at the controls there. Yeah, Craig, I am here in New York. Hot day in New York City, and still summer. I'm not giving up on the summer, and it's about 150 degrees here today. So it was.
I don't know if you have the same meme that goes around in North Carolina. We have this meme called the 12 Seasons of North Carolina, and so last week was false fall, and this week is second summer. So
never heard of it.
Real fall comes in a few weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's been crazy. The subway was like madness. It was really not a good place to be today. But, I made it home alive in one piece and in the air conditioning. I'm happy to be here. This is our 26th episode.
That is correct. 26 in the book. That is, if you're counting at home, that's over 6 months. That's half a year.
Yeah, that's one more than 25. I'm pretty good at math.
It is one more than 25, 26, 26 episodes. And this episode's interesting. I know the tile industry, there's so many different facets to it. But one of the big things that's happened in the last, would you say, decade is the consciousness for the environment and sustainability. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So that's exciting.
I'm excited, and it's not just the tile industry, right? It's the whole,
it's the whole world. Yeah.
The whole world is at least the industrialized places are focusing on sustainability and the environment and energy use. And it's a topic that's pretty hot. And there's been a lot of greenwashing in the past where people just talk the good talk. But I think there's a lot of things that are going on that are really making inroads into progress and people taking responsibility, doing the right thing for business and doing the right thing for the environment. Because that really was the problem in the beginning, right? You want to do right for the environment, it's great. But if it didn't make business sense to some degree,
nobody would do it. Yeah.
Nobody would do it, and nobody would buy it, and nobody would grasp onto it. So it really was, they both need to marry together. It's the only way it's going to work. Now we are live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and X. And
that's right.
I can't just say X. It needs another syllable or something. I don't understand. I know when I go to my app, it still says the X. I refreshed it. I updated my app. Right. But it still says Twitter somewhere. Is like Twitter officially gone?
It's because you still have a flip phone, John.
It's actually a rotary phone.
Yes. But the good thing about that, even if you're not live right now, I mean, we hope you're breathing. But if you're not live right now and you're watching on a playback, this is your show. We say that every week, and we mean it. Your questions are important to us, and that's where we get our content, is from the interaction from you guys. So if you're live right now, that's awesome. I'm watching your comments come in. But if you're not, we're still going to look at your comments. If you're watching on the playback on YouTube, on X, on LinkedIn, we still want to hear from you. We still want those comments. And our guest tonight, he'd like to answer them, even though it may be after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that note, wherever you are watching from, be it live or on a rebroadcast, definitely let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to know where you're at. We have people across the globe watching the show, and Tile Nerds Unite. We're really here to talk about.
I haven't seen our Australian friend in the last couple of weeks. Hopefully, he's doing okay and putting in porcelain countertops.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
There to the Aussies and. It's morning there. So
how was your weekend?
It was good. I mean, it was a long weekend, Labor Day weekend. It was great. I spent some time at the lake. I'm not normally a lake guy, but our family had some property at the lake, and this was our first chance to go out there and do it. I jumped one time, lost my watch, and you know what? There's something about a lake. You can't see the bottom of it. And sometimes you can't see your hands in front of your face. And it was kind of freaky. So I had to buy a new watch.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, at least you made it back. So that's good.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a good hot summer weekend in New York. Did some landscaping. So got a lot of exercise, made a lot of progress. It was really good. I was happy to get out in the sun. Now, we have a really great guest tonight. I'm really excited about.
Yes, I am familiar with Florim USA. I've toured their factory a couple of times. Really, they've been innovators in actually getting porcelain, high-end Italian porcelain made right here in the good old US of A in Tennessee. And so I didn't know a lot about, being a contractor. The sustainability thing didn't come across my desk. It came across it sometimes, but not often. And so I didn't know that the position we're having on tonight even existed.
Yeah, actually, I think the companies that are leaders in the industry, not only I mentioned earlier greenwashing, where people just say they're green or really not, they're not green at all.
Right.
Companies like Florim and some other factories that really take it seriously actually bring someone on who could take on that role in a factory at a company and really guide and direct them in the right direction, because it's a moving target, and it's something our industry hasn't really paid much attention to. Maybe, like you said, like in the last 10 years, they've started to pay attention, and the technology, it's all about the technology, and hopefully Don could shed some light on the technology, because everyone wants to save the world, right? And have less of a carbon footprint on the world, while we could still, live in a modern society, right? We don't want to just live in a hut and have no electricity, right? So, we want to kind of have both.
Inside bathrooms. I said
exactly. Well, I know where you live, so you're down south, and all that stuff.
So let's bring him on from Clarksville, Tennessee. Don,
there he is.
Welcome you to the show.
Hey, Don, how you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Wow. So I'm taking a guess that that's not your home office.
This is not my home office. I'm at my beautiful Italian factory.
It's great that you can be an Italian factory in the United States, which is I love that.
Yep. Well, our offices are very Italian. A lot of glass, a lot of steel.
That is great. Yeah, that's a nice office there with the glass. And I noticed your the picture we used for your headshot. That was your rock star. That was your rock star picture.
That's right. Normally the main flows. Today it's a little tamed.
I like the rock star picture. You look like Sensei Kreese from Cobra Kai. Like all you needed was a gi and you were ready to go fight.
Well, when I first told Craig that you were going to come as a guest, I don't know if I'm the only person, but I told him your name was Don Henley at first. Took me, and then I corrected myself, and so yeah, you got some tile rock star in you. I know. Well, welcome to our show. So are you? So how far do you live from where your office is?
I'm about an hour out. So
okay.
There's an irony there with a sustainability guy driving an hour, but.
Well, I'm sure they'll put in a train soon.
I hope so.
He's just going to move into the office there and just sleep there, you know.
Yeah. Well, we see Jackie, your partner in crime. She just gave a shout out to the Woohoo, and we had a great conversation with the four of us not too long ago. But Don, tell me a little bit about your history and how you ended up in the tile industry and on the side of the tile industry where you are.
Well, I started out working as an environmental consultant straight out of college. Graduated back in '81 and consulted for air pollution primarily for 30 odd years, and really grew tired of getting on an airplane every Sunday and getting home every Thursday.
Oh, wow.
And looked for a more stable physical location, and came from consulting to manufacturing. So
right.
The funny thing there too is that back in 1991, when this plant was first built by the Ties, I permitted it as the consultant.
Okay.
So arguably, I've been here. I'm the longest employee.
Wow. So that's like 9 years. How long?
91 was when we first started.
91.
Oh, wow.
So the math was not your strong suit. That's over 30 years.
No. Yeah, exactly. Wait, the factory is built by who? The Ties, you said?
The Ties. It was the Siam Cement Company at the very, very beginning.
Oh,
and
really?
Florim was an advisor, and the Ties got tired of failing, and so Florim bought the factory from about 2000.
Wow. That is amazing. Now, why Tennessee?
Well, there's currently 8 tile factories in Tennessee, 8 porcelain plants, because of West Tennessee ball clay. It's physically it's as good as the Italian clay was. It's not as white, but it's a beautiful ball clay to bake tile, and it's local.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the new, Tile Central is in the industry. There's a tile sector in Italy, like Fiorano Modenese and the Modena region. Fiorano, there's a sector where at one point there were 200 factories in a 20-mile radius producing tile, and in the world, even in the industrialized world, there are very few sectors left. Like Pittsburgh used to be steel, right? And Detroit for cars, and so the tile sector is holding strong in Italy and Spain, and now I see this Tennessee is really amazing. There's a lot of factories now. Are most of the factories there? Do you know? Are they mostly have European base, or are there straight out domestic manufacturers there?
There's one Brazilian, one Chinese, one American, and the rest are Italian.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was going to say you can't forget about Crossville. I think they're the first ones to have a plant there in that area.
Right. I permitted them back as a consultant too.
Wow.
And when you say permitted, were you just environmentally permits?
Yeah, back then it was all keep EPA off your back. Sustainability was not a thing back in the 80s and 90s. It's just quote unquote new. Certainly post 2000.
Gotcha. So you were just making sure. Back then, they probably didn't even have to do water recapture and stuff like that, did they?
They didn't have to, but in the tile industry, the water reuse has been universal from the beginning. It's waste not, want not, and it's been pretty common.
And water can be expensive, so I guess you
can if you don't have a source. I mean, everybody uses. I'm going to say everybody in the state uses municipal water, so you got to buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like you can pump a well and get it cheap.
Sorry, I had to jump off for a second. My computer came unplugged and was going to die. So that would have been bad since everything is running through my computer in Raleigh. But thanks, John, for covering for me. And, if I disappear, normally it's a technical issue. But
we've been getting, Don, a lot of inquiries today about where the state of this environmentally sustainable products, tiles, what's the state of the industry? Like, where are we at? Because there's so many now acronyms going on. There's all these different initiatives, all these different accrediting or agencies, and it could be overwhelming for people. And I'm curious if all these things overlap, or are they completely like different things?
Well, I take the approach that it's all one thing. Because what we change here affects there, if you will. That
Okay.
there's no real independence of any topic. So that if you look at carbon, that's the current buzzword, embodied carbon in building products, which is really the assessment of how much energy did it take to make the product from the beginning of the mine, say, through manufacturing, through use, through end of life, through disposal into the landfill or recycle.
Is it appropriate at that point to talk about carbon footprint, or is that not? Is that not the place?
That's a piece of it,
right?
So if you look at our carbon footprint, say at Florim, and you divide that by how many square feet of tile we make in a year, that gives us carbon intensity per square foot of tile that goes into your building.
Wow.
So that it's a lot of it's very mathy, but
I was going to say that sounds like a lot of math.
And
for that reason, I'm out.
But I hire consultants for the hard part.
Okay.
But so then you end up with that embodied carbon. What's the energy load to make your part, and then use it.
Okay. And what contributes? Is it like if you have to use water? Is there a raw material factor to it, or the energy it takes to get the water, or the energy itself from gas or whatever you use to fire up the kilns? Like, are there points? Where do these numbers come from?
All of the above. And it's like at the mine, for example, you burn diesel fuel on bulldozers to dig it up. And then you burn diesel fuel in trucks to bring it to the factory. And then we burn electricity to process it. We burn natural gas to make it into a tile. And then we burn diesel fuel in trucks to deliver it. So it's that full life. And then it even considers the water, say, to clean the tile for the 60 years that it's installed in the building.
Oh.
Wow. I mean, it seems like you could whittle that down to, the energy it takes to make the tires on the bikes that ride around the warehouse. I mean, is that factored in too? Or but since that's not directly into the product, it's not factored in.
Now
like
that
some of the miscellaneous stuff.
Now that you've mentioned it, I'll probably have to consider that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Well, Craig's just looking for a new position. He wants to be that person.
The bicycle counter.
Yeah.
No, we have not actually gone to that nth degree.
Okay.
But it is all electricity. And then we use databases for a lot of it, for how far away is the mines, are the mines individually, and then get averages, how much diesel. So there's not, we don't actually measure every truck, but it's a statistical analysis in large part.
Right.
Now, when I was graduating, I graduated ECU, Go Pirates, construction management in '99. And at that point in time, lead was a big deal. And I remember my senior year, they were toying around with the idea of having a class. And I said, I don't want any part of that. I said, I already had to learn the OSHA book. I don't want any part of another manual. But after I got into the industry a little while, I did learn more about it. How much has changed in that 24 years?
I think the biggest thing has changed is degree, not kind. It's a lot more intense. It's a lot more particular. It's a lot more specific. But in general, it's the same. What are the chemicals used? What's the energy used? How do you, and then we have better tools to assess that. We have better tools to quantify that. But it's the philosophy, I'm going to say, is largely unchanged from that.
Yeah, I think one of the first questions we got, what does LEED stand for?
Yeah, always ask about jargon. We are a world of acronyms.
Yes.
And LEED is Leadership in Environmental and Energy Design. Okay. And it's part of the U.S. Green Building Council. So the LEED is from USGBC.
Okay.
To how they're the owning body of the LEED program.
So they created this concept of and one of the major misconceptions for, I call on architects and design firms, and you get a lot of young, staff members who I need a tile that's, we need like a LEED tile. And I'm like, well, it's not quite a LEED tile. It's, does it contribute to LEED points? And because sometimes they don't grab the concept. So I'd love to hear from you. How does, just in a nutshell, what's the concept of a LEED building, the different types of buildings, and what's the process?
Well, it's important. That's an excellent point to make. Is that LEED certifies buildings, not products. Products contribute to LEED.
Right.
So that in our case, looking at a porcelain tile, it contributes to LEED through low embodied carbon. It contributes through hygienicity, easy for me to say, so that it's easy to clean. It doesn't breed bacteria. It's not porous. So that contributes to LEED.
I had no idea that was part of it.
And so it's LEED by and large contribute. It's what's the environmental impact of the building, of making the parts, of running the building. And then you've also heard of this counterpart, which is the health aspect for the occupants of the building, same building.
Well designed. Now, is that with ASID? Did they put that together?
Nope, that's with the IWBI, the International Well Building Institute.
Oh, okay.
As a just a knucklehead contractor, back in the day, I remember we would bid a lot of LEED buildings, and not understanding it seemed, and I think I'm smarter now, but it seemed like you're spending a lot of extra money for this certification that doesn't get you. It didn't make a difference, and I think you probably can tell me it does, and I'd like to hear that for all those people that are out there that may have thought like I did. We're spending this extra money doing all this extra work, but is it really doing anything?
Well, but just between the three of us, the LEED certifications, silver, gold, platinum, are degrees of intensity for how green is the building.
Okay.
Right. And what we're finding oftentimes now is architects want to build to that standard, but not pay the extra money to get it certified.
That's the challenge in the industry.
Right. Because it's just big bucks to get a plaque on the front door. And if you want the plaque, it's worth paying for. If you don't want the plaque, it's not. But by and large, building to those standards gives you a better building, longer lasting building, lower energy consumption, lower water consumption, a quote unquote better building for the long haul. But if you don't want the flag out front, it's a lot of bucks for something that may.
That's good to know, because as a contractor, I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have said that you can follow the same standards and have a better building for obviously the cost works in there, or they wouldn't do it.
Right. I can't say that that's the norm, but it's certainly common.
Right. But there is another factor here. I think that the newer generations of people coming into the market, coming into the workforce, owners of firms, principals of firms, you know what? Sometimes they're making a move. They know that their potential employees want to work in a building that is environmentally friendly and has, using, waste rainwater to flush the toilets or whatever. They feel good about it. So I think it's also, it's long-term thinking, but if you're going to relocate your firm, your architectural firm or your design firm or a law office for that matter, in a building, and if it has a platinum status or whatever the status is, I think it does attract quality, forward-thinking employees. And I think that's part of it. I don't know. Have you ever heard anything like that, Don?
I have, very much. And I think that's for the groups that make the decision that going for the certification is worth it. That's certainly a piece of the decision.
That's one of the factors. That's really interesting. And I guess, and if it's established that these buildings are better for multiple reasons, not only because of the quality of things and the sustainability of things, but if people want to be in these buildings, it's something that they're seeking. And if they're seeking these buildings, they want to find building products, let's say, that could contribute to LEED. So you as a manufacturer could say, hey, we have a product that it has the lowest carbon footprint, but it happens to be super expensive. But if you want it, you have to pay for it. And I'm assuming your goal is to make that product less, so it becomes the difference between the product that is green and less green. It's kind of diminished, and now your standard product could qualify for LEED points. Is that like a goal of a manufacturer?
You have been behind the scenes at Florim. That's exactly how we've done it. There's no price difference, if you will, really, to go carbon free, to go low carbon. It's all a tile. The tile's a tile.
But that's a commitment that's a big commitment on the front end for you guys, right? It's something that you have to really, well, first they have to hire you. I mean, you literally, like you need somebody to take that lead,
right?
Pardon pun, and that's an investment. And then you're going to say, okay, guys and girls, this is what we need to do. And they're like, shit, that's going to cost us money to do that. And you're like, well, you hired me to do this. Let's do it. So I'm assuming there's a lot of front end costs that are going to get to the point where you guys are at. Is that kind of what the direction is?
No, some. I think we're coming to that point. Where we've been up until now is that porcelain tile wins the carbon race due to its longevity, due to its natural materials, due to the fact that it's not made of plastic. It wins a lot of that carbon race anyway.
Got it.
What we do then beyond that is icing. And so, as we've got we just relamped the factory. We've got 1.7 million square feet of factory, relamped that from old school high pressure lights into new LED lights, dropped our total energy consumption 3%.
Wow. That's great.
That includes all the motors, not just lights.
Right. Oh, that's big. Hey, before I forget, it is a happy hour. So cheers to everybody. We're live on Facebook and where are we? YouTube and X, and LinkedIn. So LinkedIn. If you're watching, want to know where you're watching from, let us know. If you're on YouTube, follow our channels, hit the little subscribe button. You'll get a little alert when we do go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. This is the Tile Happy Hour. Our guest is Don Haynes from Florim, and Craig Cahoon is my co-host. So we're glad that you're here. We'd love to hear from everybody. And this topic is just amazing. And what I'd like to get a handle on, I think we all like to get a handle on, are these, like, what are the important accrediting agencies? And we talked about U.S. Green Building Council. Is that it?
Right.
And whoa, that's a pretty big graphic we got going on there.
Yeah.
You know what, Don, why don't you walk us through? This is a lot of stuff. Well,
and there's, it's a smorgasbord to pick from. And so, like, we'll start at the top left, looking at Greenguard. That's how much pollution, for lack of a better word, does the product contribute to the space in which it is installed.
You mean
now Greenguard seems like I've seen that on products. I've seen that on labels. Is that accurate?
Yep. UL does it, and you send them a sample. They put it in their testing vacuum chamber, and they sniff what comes off of it. So that if you have paint, for example, old paint, new paint's much better, but old paint would emit solvent.
So in real simple term, you have a paint that has high VOCs and it's putting out all this caustic things into the environment, or a carpet that's putting off a lot of these emissions, then it wouldn't be Greenguard certified.
Correct. And so we send our porcelain tile to actually sample it for Greenguard is kind of overkill, but we do that because people like the cert. And it's zero. Nothing comes off of it. It's an inert rock. It's been to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. There's certainly no organic left in it.
Right.
It's so kind of a moot point. It's like, does it, is it fireproof, tile? Yeah, it's fireproof,
Now that brings up a point. As you say, it's not a necessary test for it, but people like to see the stamp. Do you have to test each series? Do you have to test each run of tile? How often does that have to be tested before you can actually stamp the box?
We do it annually. We send a sample off annually, and due to my shrewd negotiating skills, a single family of tile is representative of the full production of the factory every year.
Got it.
So we send off a different tile every year, but it represents them. It's a surrogate for everything in the factory.
Got it. Todd, I'm going to answer your question, and Don will tell me if I'm wrong. VOCs, in a sense, that's off-gassing.
You are correct.
It's just if that's the question you were asking. Thanks, Todd.
There's a lot of language out there. You got to pick the right one.
That's right.
So, well, when we're talking about floor products or wall coverings, the tile, you have to assume we have such a head start, like you said, because it's clay, water, and fire, right? So, but if you have wallpaper or you have carpet or you have LVT or you have wood that's finished in a certain way, there's a lot more. There's probably 3 of you walking around those factories trying to figure out how to make that stuff more environmentally friendly. So we started off at a really good point in the tile industry.
Absolutely.
What about go to the next one, ISO.
That's the International Organization for Standards Development. So we have 2 ISOs here. 9001 that everybody's heard of is the quality standard. 14001 is the environmental management system. So that it's basically a program of continual improvement of the environmental impact of the factory.
And under that, is that like an umbrella? And then do they look at the Greenguard and look at LEED and look at things under that, or is it completely unrelated to all those other?
Completely is a big word, but it's pretty much unrelated.
Got it.
It stands alone. Each one of these, in large part, stands alone.
Now, the ISO standards, I know America is weird. We don't use the metric system. Do we use the ISO standard?
We do for a few instances that are management systems because there's no real non-metric equivalent.
Gotcha.
So 14,001 is the environmental classification?
Right. And it includes everything from management involvement. Does the CEO, the president know what's happening? Are they involved? Down to they actually, when they come to audit us, they talk to folks on the line. What do you do with a used up spray can? So that they know the proper way to dispose.
What I'd really like to know is where'd they get 14,001 from?
You'll have to ask some Frenchman.
I mean,
it comes after 14,000.
Yeah, I know, but is there 14,000 other ones before it?
I don't know. $13.99.
It's like, I think yes, there are. It would seem so.
Interesting. All right, keep going. You're on a roll here. We're only
green. The next one was what? Green Squared Certified.
Green Squared is an ANSI standard, a Good American National Standards Institute standard, 138, that is written specifically for tile, and it includes: are there slave labor in the supply chain? What's the recycle rate? What's the recycled material? It's a multi-attribute standard. Looks at air, water, solid, hazardous, labor. Are the employees happy? It's a very broad thing, and it's only for tile and tile setting materials.
Wow.
And just for those who care, we're about to rewrite a lot of that standard. So I suspect by 25, 26, we're going to have a modified, updated version.
And you said do they bring in key players in the industry, stakeholders in the industry, and people sit on those boards? Is that how that works?
Yep. I've managed to worm my way into that one. So
got it.
Now, are we just rewriting different things? Obviously, there's a lot up here. Do all these serve a different purpose, or is there some redundancy?
There's redundancy, and yes, they serve a different purpose. The biggest redundancy is the HPD in the top right and the red list declare in the bottom center.
Let's talk about that, because I've had that come up just recently with a spec firm.
So the HPD is the Health Product Declaration. And so that goes back to like the well discussion we had earlier, where it's what is the impact of the material on the built space and the people in it. And declare is the same thing. It's a little more intense. HPD is by the Health Product Declaration Collaborative, and declare is by the International, something Living Institute. That is a different. They're different standards that accomplish a lot of the same thing. What I prefer on declare is they have their red list of, Craig and I were laughing earlier about methyl ethyl death.
Yeah.
What horrible chemicals are in there? So they have this long list of bad chemicals and we are red list free, as is most tile. If we go back in time 20 years, tile was not. It had cadmium and chromium as colorants. Well, we're out of those now. We've gone to frit. So So tile is by and large red list free. So
That's it. Well, let me take this home for a moment. I have a prominent firm that I call on sent me an email saying that they like this particular tile that I presented to them. They wanted samples and pricing. Additionally, I'm going to paraphrase this. Additionally, our project is operating under rather strict sustainability guidelines, both LEED and the Living Building Challenge. One aspect is to ensure that the materials we use do not contain red list ingredients underlined. Can you confirm of this tile, does it comply? So this is for a presidential library in another state, not New York. And furthermore, if we could provide any EPD documentation, other forms of documentation that provide information regarding carbon emission footprint. I mean, that's a real email. And crazy enough, the product they picked is not good. It's a concrete tile, and we know concrete has a lot of issues, compared to like a porcelain tile. So this tile actually didn't comply, and I'm back to the drawing board, finding a product. But they kind of hit a few points there, didn't they?
Yep, Florim probably has a product that will fit.
Yeah, I'm actually presenting a Florim product to them for this.
I'm thinking of a 2 centimeter option here, but it's that's, and I hear questions like that regularly. In that it needs to be red list free, it needs to be LEED supported, it needs to have a low carbon footprint. How can we achieve that? Well, porcelain tile fits that bill very well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a concrete tile, like a rectangular small tile. But concrete, per se, has issues, I believe, right, with the Portland and things for the environment that aren't that great.
Yep, there's a bigger carbon footprint there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of it. It's hard to make cement.
Yeah, so. I want to see that chart again. Let's go. We're on a roll here.
All right. We gotta.
And then the little one on the right, the red one, that's from the Bureau Veritas, and it's who we use to verify recycled content.
Okay.
And that would include both the water that's recycled internally, the internal scrap that's recycled, and then external post-consumer. We use all the post-consumer glass we can get from the local landfills, and a lot of industrial waste in the form of glass from like a stovetop manufacturer down the road.
So is the purpose of that, if a manufacturer says our product is using recycled material, it kind of is a third party that checks it out? Is that what they do?
Right. To keep me honest. Absolutely. It's a third party check. And
they created that because of Don, right? Is that
exactly? It's all my fault. But it's the LEED likes recycled material, so recycled content can support LEED also.
Gotcha.
Now, the risk you run into if you start playing the recycle game is you're going to violate the red list when you start getting into strange industrial wastes. That 99% of it's great for a tile, 1% of it's methyl ethyl death. So that's a
balancing act.
It is
quagmire.
It's sticky.
So 2 more left. What is the Circle B?
Well, that's our Florim's latest endeavor. We're pursuing a certified benefits corporation, a B Corp.
Okay.
Which is a third-party certification that takes what we discussed, say, in the green square. Do you have slave labor? What's in the supply chain? What's in the distribution chain? And then takes it to the nth degree. It's intense. We are exhausted fighting that battle. And by the end of the year, we should have B Corp certification. Right.
Well, to put that into perspective, like there's a Uyghurs Forced Labor Act in China where a lot of products that use certain plastic components that the raw material itself, there's a part of China where they may be using forced labor to source the raw material, even though the factory may be somewhere else, perhaps in Asia. And so I could see something like this certification. I don't know if it's used for, factories overseas, but there are a lot of factories that want to say, like you hear often, they're using forced labor to make, certain brands of sneakers, and people want to know these things. And I think that's pretty good. That's amazing. Now, what do you mean it's a Florim initiative? Like you want to use it internally, or is this you want it to do it industry wide?
It's internal. I think it's it's a big ask to try and push it beyond a company.
Right.
I mean, we've got now our parent company in Italy has already done it. And we were the 3 years ago, I guess, we scored enough points then to support them, but not get our own cert. So the goal now is to have our own certification. And I guess in support of that too, this past year, we rechartered Florim USA with the state of Tennessee and its business license as a benefits corporation.
Oh,
so our intent is to make money and do good, not just make money.
That's pretty cool.
We're continuing down that path as hard as we can go.
Awesome. Now the last one, NSF, that means non-sufficient funds. I know that one. The bank sends me that one once a week.
You're telling on yourself here, Craig. But
I have no secrets, Don.
In this context, let's go with National Sanitation Foundation.
Okay.
That they are just a certifying body for the EPD, which is another ISO standard. It's ISO 14025, if you want to look that one up. That is, what is the environmental impact of the manufacture of the product? This is where we get our carbon number, all the way from the mine through the end.
Oh,
gotcha.
And we also get a water impact and air quality impact. There's a lot, but our big driver right now is the carbon number.
So out of all these things that you talked about, how many of these are just tile related? I know you touched on it, but I kind of want to summarize it here.
Just the one, just green squared is actually purely tile.
So if you're buying carpet for a building or some kind of soft flooring, let's say, or wall covering, a lot of these things come into play. If you want to do a platinum LEED building and you want wallpaper, you want to know what it's made out of. You want to know if it's off-gassing anything.
Right. And comparison is a little challenging in that many materials have different rules that went into establishing how you do the EPD. Now, we're lucky in that the EPD for flooring is for flooring, resilient through porcelain.
Got it.
So that allows some easier comparison between carpet and porcelain.
So it's more what you're saying is in the environmental sustainable question, flooring, it's kind of an equal playing field.
Yes.
In the assessing of the products.
Right. Now, if you want to look at comparing wall tile to other forms of wall covering, that's starting to get pretty sketchy in terms of actually comparing. You have to be careful.
I do get a kick when once in a while they want to know like the flame retardancy of the tile. I'm like, come on.
I get that question all the time. Now, Don, you mentioned something about carbon and the carbon footprint, and you gave us this other really confusing chart here. So tell us what this means.
Well, you got to baffle them somehow. But I love this chart in that on the left we have broadloom carpet, on the right we have porcelain tile, and the height indicates how much embodied carbon is in that product. So porcelain tile has the least embodied carbon of any flooring material, but you've got to look at the full life of the product.
Right.
Right.
If you just look at through manufacturing, other floorings win, but they have to be replaced every 15 years.
Got it.
Porcelain will last the building. So that's an important distinction. And then that raises another question is that as I talk with designers and architects, I get the question, but it uglies out before it wears out.
Right. Right. And so this kind of gets into the biggest thing. And we always said this I worked for a terrazzo and tile contractor. Terrazzo and tile have the longest life cycles of any flooring. And, and like you said, it uglies out before you have to do anything.
And so the answer to that, though, my argument is pick a beautiful timeless tile that you could decorate around. As opposed to, don't pick a hot pink tile. Now, the salespeople don't want to hear me say that because, we can sell a lot of hot pink tile this year if that's what's hot. But from a sustainability standpoint, pick a timeless tile, quote unquote neutral, that will last through. And that supports the environment. It supports tile.
It makes me think of there's this company that specializes in repurposing kitchens, residential kitchens. People who want to rip out a kitchen that's, really expensive kitchen, and they're very picky and they'll come and disassemble it for free and take it away for free, but then they'll resell it. And it kind of makes me think of, I had a client once that this was when the whole green initiative was starting, and they was so persistent on the green factor. And they showed me a picture of their kitchen. It was beautiful. And they're ripping it out. And the John and me wanted to say, well, if you really want to be sustainable, keep the freaking kitchen. It's fine. So it almost seemed like they were doing it just to be like the end. They wanted to be like, say that they were getting a green product, but if they really wanted to be sustainable, keep what you had if it was functional. So to your point, Don, if you pick a product that's, designed, timeless, and the other things that will wear out or can be changed easily, like wall coverings or paint or furnishings or furniture, make those be hot pink, right? And then keep the base of the product. That seems to make this day and age, that's really the way people should go. Speaking of this day and age, we have something else that we do here at the show, completely unrelated to tile. I try to stump Craig. So every day is National Tile Day as far as we're concerned. Actually, when is National Tile Day? It's right before the covering show, isn't it?
It is. I don't know if it's the same. It was February 23rd this past year, but I'm not sure if it's the same day, or it may be one of those things where it rotates Thursdays. I don't know.
Yeah, so I try to stump Craig on today's National Day, and we know there's all sorts of quirky ones. So there's two truths and one non-truth in this. I'm going to put up the 3 and see if I could stump Craig here. So today's National Day is Cheese Pizza Day, right?
Oh, that sounds
Be late for something day, or Protect Your Pet from Heat Day. So 2 of those are real, and one of those I made up. And I want to know, Craig, what your answer is.
Well, you go, Craig and Don. Don's here too. He gets to.
Sorry. Yes, let's do it. This is a
Don's a neophyte.
My guess is the false is Cheese Pizza Day.
It's not Cheese Pizza Day. It is
not Cheese Pizza Day.
All right. Okay. Final answer for you?
That's my final answer.
All right, Don, you're up.
I was going to go with Be Late for Something Day is not the day.
All right.
That's just every day.
Good.
So
is that your final answer?
John, can you keep us waiting?
Yes. Protect Your Pet Day. Protect Your Pet from Heat Day is made up. The other 2 are real.
So Don and I are both wrong.
Stumped you both.
Well, Don, you are a tile professional in a unique position, but for tonight, we're going to let you be a tile nerd. And I have a question, and it is based on a tile phenomena, a tile thing. It's something that actually happened. So here in my hand, I have an actual question from an actual client. And this time, John, I have a show and tell. So the question actually comes with a photo. So I'm going to pull up the photo after I read you the question. So it's from an actual client. This says the shower floor was installed 6 weeks ago. They used white thin set underneath the tile. The grout is non-sanded, and they used a petroleum-based sealer, which is not VOC
friendly
compliant.
Right.
And then after only 6 weeks, minerals began to appear in the surface, creating an orange stain. So, John, you probably already know what this is going to look like. But here is this beautiful tile and this beautiful floor. Mm-hmm. And, John, can you tell me what is going on here? Is it natural? Is it what is causing this, John? I'm
thinking it's trapping something from the surface. It's not breathable. I'm thinking this petroleum based sealer maybe is trapping anything that's trying to escape. I'm not that clear in my answer, or it's a chemical reaction with this petroleum based sealer.
Okay. Don, do you have any ideas? I know this is outside of your scope of normal work. What does this look like to you?
Well, my first thought was, is it porous and has something taken up residence in it?
Yeah.
Well, so
It
the
is a
material, if you
porous
look at the
material.
bottom
It
right,
is a marble.
it's a marble bottom right that's supposed to look white and gray, and
Correct.
and it's a porous marble.
Correct. My thought, and I don't know for sure. So this is where this may be a draw because
Don, let me just cut Craig off here. What he does, Craig, every week is he gets paid, I'm assuming quite handsomely to be in this position, and he doesn't have answers to everything. So he comes on the show to try to get the answers in the guise of,
this is how I'm at. Yes, I want you guys to tell me so I can. These people have been waiting for weeks.
Exactly, in the guise of entertainment and information. We're doing his job. That being said, we love you, Craig, and we're along for the ride.
Yeah. No, I think there's some sort of rust deposit in one of the tiles. I don't think the sealer has anything to do with it. I think there is and there's probably some drainage issues going on where there's a little bit of water maybe sitting in that area where it drains really fast. It doesn't have a chance to soak in. But then over here where it slows down a little bit, I think some of that water is being absorbed, and there's some iron deposits in.
That's logical. I think that's logical. And I think what you're saying answers the question I was going to throw back at you was, then why is it concentrated in certain areas? Like, because if it was the sealer creating a problem, it would have been everywhere. Yeah, it would have been everywhere.
Yeah. And I think I've noticed this a lot lately on several different projects that have come across my desk. And I'm not sure, and I haven't tested it specifically, but some of these foam pans, either they're installing them incorrectly and cutting them wrong, but they're not getting the slope that they need. I've seen a lot of these pebble tiles showing puddles, and they said they use the pan, which should be pre-sloped to the appropriate shower, but they're not getting the run off of it that they should. So
they may be modifying. They may be modifying the pan to fit a certain way.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
my
could
thought, because I know Latacrete and Schluter and all those that make these pans, they're making them to spec,
right?
But how they're doing it, I don't know. But that was
I'd like to see. I'd like to find out what's going on with that floor. That's really a bad situation because that's it's a really nice, not an inexpensive material. There's obviously something in the environment, external or internal, that's creating that. It wasn't obviously, it didn't come out of the box like that. They wouldn't have installed it. It's pretty interesting. All right, so we're pretty all stumped on this one.
Yeah, well, and there's really no way to find out. I mean, you can tear it out and start over, and you can do some forensic. I forget what you call it when you actually have to damage it. I guess some forensic test on it and take it apart and figure it out. That's the only way to know for sure. But that's a risky thing because you damage the waterproofing. You pretty much got to redo the whole floor.
Yeah. Once you do that, it's you have to start over again. Hey Don, something I forgot to ask you about before with lead. First place, was lead the lead in all this? I didn't, pardon the pun on that, but was lead kind of the first in this whole initiative?
They were the first structured, organized. I think there were thoughts to go that way, but lead, USGBC and lead were the first to really head down the path.
Got it. But that wasn't my question specifically. So the specific question was, there's another factor that I found interesting is where a product is made as to where it's being installed. Tell us more about that. I forgot to ask you that before.
That's a lead issue with distance from manufacturing to the job site. So that any U.S. manufacturer wins over a European or Asian manufacturer for that reason.
Just for the travel part of it.
Right. Carbon from transportation.
Now, what about this 500 miles? Is that still a thing?
I've heard 500. I've heard 250. I've heard 240. There's a discussion there. I'm not really sure.
220, 221, whatever it takes. Yeah.
It's up for bidding.
I've got the hottest question to close us out for today.
All right. Okay. Ready for you.
Have they gotten rid of the waterless urinals yet? Because those are terrible.
No. They are popular.
I don't understand how they work. How do they work? Do they work?
They smell bad and you don't go in and use the bathroom anymore.
Yep. They smell bad. You mentioned earlier about using rainwater to flush, and there's a building in Nashville that does that. And over every fixture, toilet, urinal, there's a little sign that says, "No, the water's supposed to be brown. That's okay."
Yeah.
Right.
But I did a lead building, gosh, many years ago on Duke's campus here in Durham. And it was the first time I had met a waterless urinal. And I kept thinking to myself, I'll be so excited when I open this building and I figure out how this works. It still is not working.
They work badly.
What's the concept? Gravity? Like, what's behind it?
There's no flush. It's just gravity, and there's a little cartridge that I don't know if it's a deodorizer or a filter or what. But
that's terrible.
It's
a fancy outhouse.
It is fancy.
Yeah, it's a high dollar portion.
I will say you've got a unique job in the ceramic tile industry, and I appreciate you being a part of the Tile Happy Hour. I know that we're going to get a lot of mileage out of these clips, and I'm hoping that people find the information they're looking for. But if they can't find that information, you're obviously an industry professional. You know what you're talking about. They can contact you at your email. I asked you this, and this is it.
No problem. I answer questions on the reg. So
if you've got further questions about the tile and stone industry in the environmental and sustainability, Don is the man to ask. And he's got the coolest hair in the tile business. And he was cool enough to hang out with us today. And I hope you learned something. I know I did. I'm still upset about the waterless urinal thing, but maybe we can invent something that'll work.
We got to get a plumbing expert on there. And we had that first chart with all the different organizations of credit. That's really, I think we should start something new. We just need to create like Don 101. That's the new classification. And you
Don
just tell us.
Class, I like
exactly. That. Don 101 compliant. Let's just simplify it, Don, and go forward with it. But
Don gets a nickel every time it's stamped on a box.
Exactly. Well, it's been really good to have you, Don. It's good to have everyone else who's watching. Please send us a message, send us a question, reach out to Craig or myself or to Don. We're going to post that graph on our socials also, that chart, because that was pretty cool. And next week, we're looking forward to seeing everybody here at Tuesday on the 8th. And this is John Tedisco. I'd like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
And thanks for we're sustainable. We're sticking with it. It is episode 26, and we're having a great time talking about the tile industry. Join us next week where we're going to talk about something riveting and exciting. We just don't know what it is yet. Let's keep learning together. And as always, tile the world.